You know that feeling, right? You ask an AI something about a recent event, and it gives you an answer that's, well, totally out of date. Or maybe you wish it could just look at your company files to help you out. It's a common problem, but there's this really cool technology that fixes it, and it's called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG for short. This is the secret sauce that gives AI an open book to the world, and today we're going to crack that book open and see exactly how it works.
All right, here's what we've got on tap. We're going to start with the AI's knowledge gap, basically why we even need this stuff. Then we'll talk about giving AI that open book, which is the RAG solution. After that, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of how it actually works. We'll even touch on how you could build your own. And finally, we'll tackle a super important question. How do you know if the answer you're getting is any good? Okay, let's dive right in. So large language models, LLMs, they're amazing, right? But they're not perfect. They're not all-knowing, and to really get why they sometimes stumble, we've got to look at some of their basic limitations.
I mean, it's a totally fair question to ask. If these things are so incredibly smart, why are they sometimes wrong or completely out of date? Well, it really just boils down to two things: how they were trained and what information they can actually get their hands on.
So there are three main problems we need to talk about. First up, their knowledge is basically frozen in time. Think of it like a textbook that was printed a few years ago. It doesn't know anything that happened after its publication date. Second, they have zero access to your private data. They can't see your company's internal wiki or your personal notes. They were only trained on public internet stuff. And third, and this is a big one, they can sometimes, well, they can make things up. It's called hallucination. And they can generate answers that sound totally convincing, but are just plain wrong.
And this right here is the perfect example. If you asked a standard LLM a question where the answer has changed recently, you might get a response just like this one. See, the AI isn't trying to mislead you. It's not lying. It's just honestly reporting what it knows from its training data, which has a specific cutoff date. This is that knowledge cutoff problem in a nutshell.
So, what's the fix? How do we get an AI access to information that's current, private, and actually factual? Well, this is where RAG enters the picture. It's the solution. And you know what? The core idea behind it is actually incredibly simple.
Okay, so what is RAG? It's a system that, before answering your question, goes and retrieves relevant, up-to-date info from an external source. Then, it gives that info to the LLM along with your original prompt. The best way to think about it is this. A standard LLM is like a student taking a closed book test. It has to rely purely on what it's memorized. RAG, on the other hand, turns it into an open book test. The AI gets to look up the answers in real time from a set of documents you've given it. It's a total game changer.
All right, that open book test idea sounds awesome in theory, but how does the AI know which page of the book to turn to? How does it find the right information? Let's pull back the curtain and look at how RAG actually works step by step.
It's basically a four-step process. First, you ask a question. Simple enough. Second, before the LLM even sees your question, the RAG system searches through a specific knowledge base. This could be your company's documents, the latest news, whatever you've given it. It finds the most relevant pieces of information. Third, it takes those relevant snippets and adds them to your original prompt. So now the prompt is way richer. And finally, step 4, this new context-packed prompt gets sent to the LLM, which then generates a way more accurate and informed answer.
But hold on. How does the system do that retrieval step? How does it find the relevant data? This is the really clever part. It's not just doing a simple Control+F keyword search. No. The real secret sauce is that it understands the meaning behind your words by turning them into numbers.
And this is done using something called embeddings. It sounds technical, but the idea is pretty straightforward. An embedding is just a numerical representation of a piece of text, a long list of numbers or vector that captures its meaning. Think of it like giving every concept a unique GPS coordinate. So when you ask a question, the system looks for documents whose meaning coordinates are closest to your question's coordinates. This is huge because it means it can find things that are conceptually related, even if they don't share the exact same keywords. It's searching for meaning, not just matching words.
Okay, so we've got the theory down. We know what RAG is and the concepts behind it. But what if you wanted to actually build one? How does this all come together in a real-world application? Let's break down the key ingredients.
It really comes down to 5 main steps. First, you've got to chunk your documents. You break them down into smaller, bite-sized pieces. This is super important for making the search fast and efficient. Second, you do what we just talked about. You create numerical embeddings for every single one of those chunks. Third, when a user asks a question, you search for the chunks with the most similar embeddings. Step 4 is ranking. You got to sort the results so the absolute best, most relevant chunks are at the top. And finally, you take those top chunks, combine them with the original question, and send the whole package off to the LLM to work its magic and generate the answer.
So, let's say we've done all that. We built our RAG system, it's up and running, and it's spitting out answers. We're done, right? Not so fast. This brings us to maybe the most critical part of the whole process. How do we know if the answers are any good? How can we actually measure success?
And look, this isn't just some theoretical exercise. If you're building a bot to help your customers or a tool for your team to use, you absolutely have to be able to trust what it says. The good news is there are concrete ways to measure how well it's performing.
We really look at 3 key things. The first is called groundedness. This just asks, did the answer actually come from the documents we provided, or did the AI just make it up? You have to make sure it's not hallucinating. Second is relevance. This one's about the retrieval step. Did the system find and use the best and most relevant information to answer the question? And third, we've got coherence. This is simple. Is the final answer easy to read? Does it make sense? Is it fluent? To have a great RAG system, you really need to nail all 3 of these.
So when you put it all together, RAG is this incredibly powerful tool. It lets us feed an AI specific, up-to-date, and even private information. It basically transforms the AI from this kind of fuzzy-memoried know-it-all into a sharp, focused expert with a whole library right at its fingertips. And that leaves us with one last really big question to think about. Now that we can give AI any book we want it to learn from, what's the next thing we should teach it?